Okay, well, you mentioned what we're watching.
That was the worst segue we've had in the show.
Speaking of it not being evening...
Oh, actually, I remember the last thing I was going to say real quick.
Yes!
What I find funny is, so I love the channel Trailers from Hell that Joe Dante has done. Have you ever watched any of it?
I have not.
Well, I occasionally will add audio clips from it in our episodes, where it's Trailers from Hell is a running audio commentary series for trailers. So what Joe Dante, director of Gremlins and Inner Space and a bunch of other great films, has done, he how it started is he had a large collection of trailers on film, and it started with him just talking about these movies he loved in the 2-minute span of the trailer. And now he brings in filmmakers and writers, directors to talk about some of their favorite movies. I love that Lloyd Kaufman only comes on to talk about his own movies, which I think is funny. But I'm heartbroken that Joe Dante himself hates with a burning passion Mystery Science Theater.
Oh yeah,
he hates them because he took it so personally when they did the Mystery Science Theater movie. And they showed This Island Earth. And they're like, This Island Earth is a legitimately great movie. And he goes into all the reasons why it's great. He's like, it's got great Technicolor cinematography. And he goes on and on. He's like, and they didn't even show the whole movie. They showed, they showed 60 minutes of the whole movie. And it made no sense. And he goes on if I can find the clip, I want to add it in there. I just love that.
Awesome.
He does I don't want to say similar theme because he's not making fun of the movies, but I'm so disheartened that these two sections of my life, they come together and they hate each other.
Like when you you have to meet my other friend so and so. You're really gonna like them, and then they just
you hate them. You hate them.
Oil and water.
Yeah, it's like oh. And then they're like, let's go hang out with that guy. I'm like, do we have to? Do we have to? Couldn't we do something else without them? So yeah, that's what I was trying to remember is Joe Dante's hatred for Mystery Science.
It's an important and delightful point.
But my segue here would be that some point through this episode, I will be playing a clip from Trailers from Hell, where filmmaker Mick Garris professes his love for Knightriders.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and with me, as always, is a man that believes Camelot is only a state of mind.
Nick Richards.
I could not find a good, I was looking through quote sections, and everything was paragraph of dialogue. Where's the good one-liners?
I know it's not a quote per se, but what I was imagining was a man who likes to strip naked and whip his own pale body with a
that's not even the most homoerotic scene in the movie,
right?
It gets way weirder and way better than that. But on today's episode of The Shameless Picture Show, we'll be discussing George A. Romero's underseen non-horror film Knightriders. Actually, the film that Mick Garris, who from Trailers from Hell, believes to be George Romero's best film that doesn't include The Walking Dead. Billy is the king of a traveling troupe of Renaissance performers that go around the United States selling goods, reenacting, and, of course, jousting. However, this isn't your grandfather's jousting. This group jousts on the back of motorcycles. It's thrilling, it's dangerous, and most of all, it's fun. However, it is not all fun and games, as Billy takes his King Arthur-esque code of ethics very seriously and wants this show to be taken seriously. He wants his jousters to be treated as knights, not as insane stuntmen. Billy and his troupe are slowly developing a name for themselves, and the bigger they get, the more bigwigs from Los Angeles come sniffing around, trying to make the show bigger and make stars out of the knights. King Billy has no interest, but a dissension from his Black Knight Morgan could topple everything they've worked so hard to build. Knightriders was Romero's follow-up to his massive hit Dawn of the Dead, and while Knightriders didn't leave nearly as big of a mark on the cinematic world as Dawn did, it did continue to grow as a cult film, and currently has a 71% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty impressive because it's all later reviews. I couldn't find any reviews from the time period because it was a pretty small movie.
Yeah.
But like from the 2000s onwards, critics have gone back and reviewed it, and honestly, a 71% fresh rating and a 61% audience score for a 2.5 hour movie about jousting on motorcycles is pretty fucking spectacular.
Right? Yeah.
Romero then followed up this film with one of his really big hits, Creepshow, which we discussed on season 1, episode 20 of our show. The film was written, directed, and edited by Romero himself with a wonderful score by Donald Rubinstein and photographed by Romero regular Michael Gornick. The film stars Ed Harris in his third movie role, Tom Savini, Gary Lady. And Tom Savini is only a celebrity to us horror nerds.
Right.
It's like you say, you know who Tom Savini is? So most people, they're like, no. But you're like, Tom Savini to someone else. It's like, yeah. Gary Lady, Amy Ingersoll, Patricia Tallman, and Brother Blue as Merlin the Wizard.
Once, courageous knights roamed the land, searching for adventure, ready to brave any challenge. Knightriders. The knight is a fighting machine, disciplined in mind and heart, and noble to the death. Knightriders. Action. Adventure. Romance. Heraldry. Pageantry. And magic.
Magic got to do with the soul, man. Only the soul's got destiny.
Knightriders. They ride for the crown. They fight for honor.
That kid thinks I'm evil Knievel.
That kid thinks you're William the Knight. You're his hero.
I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm fighting the dragon.
Following a dream as far as it will take them. Because a legend lives as long as someone believes.
This isn't just a roadside carny anymore. Not for some of us. It's a lot more than that. It's a whole lot more. You know that, Morgan.
You guys is the most fun I got in my life. I just don't want to see you all break up.
You think it's breaking up?
It's money, Billy. It's all to do with money. Money makes the world go around, even your world.
Small-town jails is, uncomfortable places.
Damn uncomfortable.
Throw down the gauntlet. Take up the challenge. A new age begins. Romance and adventure live. Knightriders. The legend is born.
Brother Blue. So, this was on both of our shame lists.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yes, it was on my shame list as well. It was a
also.
movie that I've wanted to see. I've wanted to see it ever since. There's a podcast I used to listen to called The Bloodcast. And they used to do a director series where they would watch everything in a director's filmography and discuss
Oh, wow.
it. And what's even more shocking is they would discuss the entire filmography in like one episode. So they would be rapid firing that.
That is ambitious.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were talking about George A. Romero, and the host, Ryan, was talking about how much he loved Knightriders. And he just said, and he just kept quoting the tagline, Camelot is a state of mind, throughout the entire episode. And I was like, I have to see that. I have to, and it was not easy to find for a while. It was Scream Factory eventually did release a Blu-ray of it, but when I was looking for things to see, I have this great app called Real Good that I can put my entire watch list on there, and it'll show me which streaming apps it's playing.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, oh, well, Knightriders is playing somewhere. I haven't seen Knightriders. I don't want to make any assumptions about you, but I'm confident Nick hasn't seen Knightriders.
I had not seen Knightriders.
So I was like, we gotta watch Knightriders, and because I've been kind of going back and trying to reappreciate George Romero's career, because I'm a firm believer. While I like most of George Romero's zombie films, I'm constantly thinking, it's like, what if this film would have done better? How would his career played out? Because like he liked making the zombie films, he legitimately did, but he had other aspirations, and every time he tried making a film that wasn't one of his zombie films, it did okay. Like Creepshow kind of seems to be like the exception to that rule.
Yeah.
But like he went and did Day of the Dead, and then he did Monkey Shines, which didn't do very great. He did Tales in the Dark Side, the movie, and he tried to experiment in like movies like The Dark Half and such, and they didn't do as well as people were hoping. So he kind of went back, and his last 3 films were all of the Dead films. Okay. So like I just wondered, like, if Knightriders would have done better, where would his career have been?
Would that trajectory have been less zombie?
Yeah, because like he loved making horror films, so he wasn't trying to necessarily move from that. But I think he wanted to separate himself from. I don't know this for sure. Maybe he didn't. Like, but I imagine there's only so much you can do with the zombie genre.
Yeah. Or maybe not even separate himself, but expand.
Yeah, and like his budgets, he struggled to get budgets. Why he shot like Land of the Dead was probably his last big budget film, which I love that movie. But like his last film, Survival of the Dead, which was not very good, had a very minuscule budget, and like I don't know, like because like you watch Knightriders before we even talk about what we think about it. It looks like it was down and dirty and shot cheap, but it looks like it had just enough money to be really effective.
It like you, I was, and I'm starting to get into it now, but the motorcycle work, the amount of times that somebody got knocked off of one of those motorcycles with seemingly, I don't know what they did in the way of like stunt people or like people were getting like legitimately jousted off of motorcycles.
Oh, there was one, like, I don't know if it was, because I will say some of these motorcycle scenes went on a little too long, but beside the point. There was one, I want to say it was during the first time that King Billy got taken down, and all the other knights came running into, which kind of annoyed me a little bit. It's like, oh, if Morgan beats King Billy, he takes it. It's like, oh, so you guys are going to come fight Billy's battle for him? That doesn't seem very King Arthur of you. That's not going to be a new expression. That's not very King Arthur of you. But like one of them like shoved his lance through his motorcycle and he flipped over.
Oh yeah, that wasn't the only time that happened.
No, it's like did he break his neck? Jesus Christ! It's like these are not safe stunts.
No.
But I guess let's backtrack just a touch and we'll talk about what we thought about the movies. Nick, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Because I'm more familiar with the movie than you are, so I guess it's a newer movie for you.
Yeah, I had never heard of it. The first 15 minutes were strange.
Oh yeah.
Like so, it's so bizarre getting dropped into their world.
Oh yeah, especially with like Billy in the water, like you're saying, like, and he woke up in the woods, and it feels very like medieval times.
And I also wasn't sure how, like, in this world, in the world of this film, how they felt about what they were doing. Yeah,
continue, but I got some thoughts about that too.
Where it really started to take off for me was after that first 15, 20 minutes resolved, and so you got the taste of what their life and what their show was like. But when you started realizing that they were aware that they were doing something completely different.
Yeah.
That this wasn't just like, maybe not the best comparison, but like a Mad Max kind of movie where it's, where you're supposed to believe, and you do, I'm not saying it wasn't effective, but where you're supposed to believe that is the way that world is.
Yeah.
You know, for the first 15, 20 minutes, you don't know how you're supposed to feel about this motorcycle Renaissance fair.
Yeah, yeah.
And then once it resolves, it does a really good job of bringing you into this where a group of outcasts who believe in something that's doing something totally different, and nobody gets it yet, but other people are starting to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it is when it really took off for me.
That was your Thrill House moment of the movie.
I don't know if it was my thrill. That's when I settled in. I think my Thrill House movie came late.
Okay.
It was when this, I'd say maybe towards the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, when this movie that it did have gratuitous motorcycle scenes and things, it felt like an indie film made by some guy, a gearhead that also loved fantasy, that just like, it'd be awesome, we should put like knights on motorcycles, and then like, all right, and then they built a script around that. But later on in the film, it really became this story about how like true, at least from my interpretation, what I got out of it was how like truly unique pieces of art don't really have a place in our world, and what does it take to keep a community together?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you two people who believe in the same strange thing, who don't necessarily see eye to eye, how do you work with that person, and what's more important, your place in that community or the community itself? And when you have to choose, but it got really,
there's these really interesting
like
themes, and so I'll talk about in just a second like where like it really started pulling me in as well. But I do have an interesting anecdote for you. George Romero talks about when he wrote this script, he originally wrote it as a traditional Renaissance fair. There was a Renaissance fair that he was inspired by called the Society of Creative Anachronism that he was really inspired by. And the film was originally like they were jousting on horses and all of that, and he was shopping it around. And the producer pretty much said to him, is like, put them on motorcycles, then maybe you'll interest me. And he was like, and he said he was fuming about this. He's like, why the f would I, like, he was kind of pissed off about it and everything.
Yeah.
And he's like, you and your motorcycles.
You don't understand my art. You're just trying to, yeah.
And then like, he at one point he's pretty much just like, that might not be a bad idea. Maybe I was a little too cross, too fast. That might work. And like he rewrote the script and everything, and he really didn't have to. It sounds like he didn't have to change a lot. From what I have read, the original original plan for this movie would have been 14 hours long.
Oh, jeez.
And like I kept thinking, it's like because of their storytelling and how they really make you care about these characters and their world. I could have watched a miniseries of this show. Maybe not 14 hours as a total, but if they would have given me like a 6 to 8 episode arc on this, I would, because like there's times it's like as long as this movie is, I want more of this or I want more of that. I want to see more of this because he does a great job of building this world. And for me, what really kind of drew me into the film, because like at the beginning, I thought the movie was taking itself really too seriously. Like when Ed Harris woke up and was preparing himself and everything, and then he rode on his motorcycle, and I was like, oh wow, he's taking himself very seriously. But it was actually right around after their first night of jousting and everything, where like when the cops started getting involved and we started seeing their real life problems cycle in with their issue with authorities and Ed Harris trying to stick to this code, but at the same time he wants to keep this fair going, but at the same time has to deal with money. And I personally felt like the film was I described the film as if the Renaissance Fair and Easy Rider had a baby.
Right.
Because I get the feeling that maybe this film is actually about George Romero commenting on what it's like being a hippie that has to grow up.
Sure.
Because he has talked about how he was kind of a hippie in his early life and was involved in that world. But then when he started getting involved in filmmaking, which his first movie was just made because it's like, man, let's go out there and just make something. Let's do something with art. And and then it did very well, and then it started becoming a business. And it's like, how do you take this thing that you once loved, that you probably still love, and you have to transition to being a businessman? And that's kind of what it felt like to me. It's like Ed Harris created this troupe because there's a bunch of people that, for whatever reason, they all had their various reasons. Like Tom Savini just loved the motorcycles. He just wanted to ride and not have to work a real job, so he got involved with this troupe. They all have their reasons for being there, but it gets a point, like they say in the movie, it's like, we have an overhead now. We have money that we have to make.
Right. I think the movie is much better than I gave it credit for in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the real problems that they had to deal with were real life problems.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like medieval, or, it wasn't the problems that happened on the field. It was the problems that happened behind the scenes when they weren't playing with their motorcycles and their weapons.
Yeah. I also found it funny too. Like, I wondered if like George Romero kind of leaned into this once he decided to start once he decided to use the motorcycles. It's like one thing that's always been funny to me about Renaissance fairs is they tried to pride themselves on being, to an extent, like realistic in how it was presented. But because of that, you get two things that always seem to happen. They take themselves way too seriously. And it's always us looking back, and there's always this weird contemporariness to all of it. And it's like, you'll have people who don't break character at the Renaissance fair and everything, but then you can pay with a debit card and they have a cash register.
Right.
And I kept wondering if this was somehow built into that, like a little bit, like George Romero talking about, like, no matter how hard you try to be as realistic as possible, you're just going to seem absurd.
Right, yeah.
Because you're going to have one thing that's going to be contemporary, and it's going to just change everything.
We doth take Visa and MasterCard.
But at the same time, maybe I'm thinking too much about this movie. I don't know. Like, I found myself thinking a lot about this movie. And maybe that's the genius of George Romero, is he makes you think.
I think it is, and again, I've already said it, and I'm being redundant, but, you don't think that you're going to get this level of thought in the beginning bit, but after it is a film that does make you think. It gets your brain churning about theme and the contrast of the past with the present, and not all films do that. You can have a smart film that doesn't make you think. Mm-hmm. You can have an unintelligent film that's really fun, and you just kind of sit and check out and have a great time. This is a film that engages your mind. And gets the gears turning and makes you ask questions. And I really, really enjoyed that.
So would you say you overall enjoyed the film?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Probably a pretty pleasant surprise for you. Cause...
I went in expecting a fun time. Like the one that I described, where I would sit back and go, this is silly. I can enjoy that.
It's jousting on motorcycles.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm not really much of a gearhead, but like...
Yeah, me neither.
I was expecting to go in and have a good time.
Yeah.
I was not expecting the thoughtfulness of it. Yeah. And for the real meat of the film to be existing outside of the motorcycle jousting element.
Yeah, and like since I've seen this film, I've been like a big proponent of it, and I've just been trying to get people to see it, because like maybe this is just me going a little too high with hyperbole, but like I personally think I've been describing it as the best Romero film that very few people have seen. Like I think it could, maybe if it would have been a little bit tighter and a little bit like, because I'm sure the 2.5 hour runtime did not help its commercial appeal, but I feel like but hell, Dawn of the Dead was long, and everyone thinks that's a masterpiece as well. Yeah. So I don't think length necessarily has anything to do with it. There's something with it about that did not stick with people. But I personally think it's, pardon me, a film that's ripe for rediscovery, because there's so much going on. Because for me, they they sell it on this motorcycle jousting.
Right.
But the things that I found most interesting was just them sitting around talking, drinking, playing music. Like the entire scene where I think the character's name was Pippin, when they were trying to ask him about his sexual life, and he was very closed up about it. It's like I felt myself really invested into these people.
Yep. At one point, I was talking with Raina about like, it's, for a film of that era, it's surprisingly woke, which, is true of Romero in many ways. And then like right after that, there was a gratuitous topless shot. And I go, well, okay, in some ways.
It is funny though. It's like, there's a fun story about that. Well, at least I think it's kind of funny. So originally the character of Merlin the Wizard, who was played by a performance artist, actor, and activist named Brother Blue.
I'm going to pause you real quick to say the fact that he was playing harmonica right after performing with his bloody gloves. Like, come on, you just got done trying to convince a cop of how sterile everything is and how professional you are, and now you got some other man's blood up in your harmonica.
Yeah, but not a single malpractice suit, not a single one.
Continue.
Originally, it was going to be George Romero wanted Morgan Freeman to play the part.
Oh,
and
interesting.
It was before Morgan Freeman had done any acting. Like, well, he had done some, but he hadn't done a single movie. He was on a TV show called The Electric Company.
Oh, yeah. Familiar with it, yeah.
Which George Romero said he was a huge fan of, which I kind of love that George Romero's watching The Electric Company.
Right.
And he wanted Morgan Freeman to do it. And he said Morgan Freeman met with him, but kind of had a chip on his shoulder at the time. And I'll play his audio from the interview so I'm not misquoting him so you can actually hear what he says. But he said Morgan Freeman had a bit of a chip on his shoulder at the time and was a little pissed off that he wrote in the script that Merlin the Wizard was a black man.
Oh, okay.
And Romero's kind of like, well, the only reason the casting director found you is because I wrote that in, because they wouldn't have called you without it. And they kind of had some words about it, and Morgan Freeman decided that he didn't want to do it. And they've talked about it since then. Like, Morgan Freeman has pretty much said that, it's like I was thick-headed and everything at the time, and what George Romero says is he's like, it's probably best that you didn't do the movie. He's like, if you would have done the movie, I might have been a bigger star, but I don't think the movie would have helped you at all.
You would have brought the movie up. I would have brought your career down.
Pretty much. And I'm
very humble of him.
Yeah. Like but no, it's like, and especially too, because like I imagine that Romero did it at the time too, because like it was 1981. Unless you specifically write a character to be black, most probably black actors weren't getting called.
Right.
But yeah, I can see both sides of that argument. But I was like, wow, Morgan Freeman is almost in this movie. What would that have done for the movie? If it would have done anything, I don't know if maybe it wouldn't have helped the movie at all.
I really enjoyed seeing. I didn't know at the time, but it sounds like from your intro that this came out before Creepshow.
Yeah, it went Dawn of the Dead, Knightriders, Creepshow. What a weird 3-movie path.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing like the preemptive Creepshow team.
Yeah, showing
up. So there's Ed Harris. There's the Stephen King cameo.
They were working on the script on set. That's why Stephen King was there.
Okay, Tom Savini.
Yep.
There was one other element that I was forgetting. Anyway, it was cool seeing all that pop up. Stephen King's cameo was fantastic.
I loved it because like I put it together over the years that Stephen King is a big wrestling fan.
Yeah,
because like he has that line. It's like they're probably just using that blood packets that they use in wrestling.
It's just like wrestling. It's fake.
And then like because like it's like but yet we were just watching Silver Bullet last night, and Stephen King wrote the script for that. And one of the characters he's watching pro wrestling before he dies, and like there's all these pro wrestling references in Stephen King's work. And then it topped it off when I met a wrestler by the name of Tugboat. Back in the day, his wrestling name was Tugboat. He was also known as Typhoon. I know you didn't ever watch wrestling very much, but he was part of a team called the Natural Disasters. And his real name is Fred Ottman. he said we were in Maine one time doing a show, and it's like he's like me and Typhoon, we're big Stephen King fans. We knew he lived in Maine, so we went to find his house with our books in hand, hoping that maybe if we meet him, he'll sign it. They were waiting outside Stephen King's house, and they saw the gates, and they said Stephen King actually walked out and walked up to the gate, and he goes, he's like, you guys are the Natural Disasters. I'm a big fan. So they took so he signed their books. They took pictures in front of it and everything. And it's like Stephen King's a big wrestling fan. I was like, that's kind of adorable.
Could you imagine though going to like this person that you're a huge fan of to admire them and hopefully get 2 minutes of their attention, and then you see them and they're like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan of yours.
That has to be like the most like amazing, humbling feeling ever though.
Yeah.
Like you go there to meet Stephen King, who is still probably arguably one of the most prolific writers in history.
Right.
Even people who don't read know the name of Stephen King.
Yeah.
You go to his house to meet him, and he wants to meet you. I just think that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was kind of great seeing the Creepshow team get together. Stephen King obviously in it with his wife. His wife was sitting right next to him as well, which I thought was funny.
This was Ed Harris's third movie, produced by Romero and Richard Rubinstein, who worked together a lot for a long time. It's a unique combination of medieval pageantry and motorcycle movie, a total departure from the zombie movies that Romero had so much success with, and was completely unsuccessful. Stephen King was around working with George on the script for Creepshow at the time, so King and his wife Tabitha have a brief cameo in the film. Steve is swilling beer and getting drunk and yelling on the exploits of this anachronistic motorcycle gang. According to Romero, this was inspired by the Society of Creative Anachronism, which was a group dedicated to recreating medieval events like jousting matches and the like around the country. This is 2.5 hours long, which really hurt its commercial potential. You know, people expected this gut-munching horror movie, but got a contemporary motorcycle Knights of the Round Table action film instead. It was Ed Harris's third movie. He did a lot of movies with Richard Rubinstein. He even did 2 days on The Stand for me when we were shooting that in Utah. And Tom Savini, who was famous for his incredible gore and zombie makeups for the Dead movies, among many others, is really good as an actor. And in this film, he's the Dark Knight Morgan. He's great as a heavy and really good as a stunt guy, too. A lot of Romero's actors from other films are here on display. In addition to Savini, there was John Amplas, who was the lead in Martin, Ken Foree from Dawn of the Dead. Real change of pace, really interesting concept, and very well shot action movie, and really well worth discovering.
Yeah, it was. I also loved seeing all the actors that Romero uses from film to film, because he uses a lot of like no-name Pittsburgh talent. He's been using the same cinematographer in a lot of these films. And it just kind of like, it feels like he definitely had some sort of budget, because you couldn't do this movie with no money. But it just felt like he kind of made, I kind of feel like this troupe of motorcyclists, jousting people, was also like him commenting on his troupe of filmmaking friends that all got started in Night of the Living Dead.
Sure, his motley crew of outcast artists.
Yeah, the people he met working on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that got together and started making movies together and moved on from there. And
what was it, a appendectomy or a gallbladder surgery or something that he filmed?
Yeah, and Romero still says the scariest thing he's ever shot, which I love. But one thing I think the movie really does very well is it casts, even at the time, all no-name actors. Ed Harris wasn't really a name. Tom Savini is only a name to us nerds.
Yeah.
It was pretty much all no-name actors.
So Stephen King was the best.
He was the biggest name in the film, yes, with his incredibly black beard. It looked like it was painted on.
It totally looked like it was like sponge painted and smeared, like not even stippled, just like swiped across.
It's all like pro wrestling. I just love the way he talks.
His big buck teeth, like he's really just leaning into those teeth.
Meteor shit.
Oh, Jordy Verrill, you done it again. Wonder how much they pay for it up at the college.
But like, the acting was also sincere.
It was good.
Yeah, like even the people who like Tom Savini he acts now Like he's always done acting, but he didn't say he didn't start taking his acting more seriously until he stopped doing makeup effects, and like he actually started going to to acting classes and trying to become more of a thing with that. But like he's got a lot of just natural talent. Like Ed Harris, it's like I've always known Ed Harris, but like you could think like this is his third movie role, and you can definitely see like no wonder he became such a big star.
Yeah. I'm sure it helps that these are all performers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their roles that they're playing are performers. So even if the actors' performances come off a little too performery, it works for the role.
Mm-hmm. Like for me, that's what really drove it. And like, even when times when like his code of ethics made no sense to me, like I believed him. So like when that kid wanted the autograph, and he's like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And like he's like, I don't want you to viewing me as an Evel Knievel type. And I was like, you could have signed the autograph.
I'm like, don't be a man, just sign his book. But they bring it back. Like that is where he goes when he finally lets go of all of that a little bit in order to hold his community together.
Yeah.
And then he goes on his little like Rumspringa of kicking the crap out of a cop in front of everybody and getting a raucous applause. Like
I have to talk about that scene real quick because Ed Harris throws the gun in a fryer.
Right.
That is so not safe. That gun's gonna go off.
I don't know how much of it is me looking at it from our modern world, but like you can't just do that, man.
No, you can't just go
like
of a cop. Or even at the beginning of the film when it really got me emotionally when I don't remember the name of the character. I think it was Bagman. Bagman was arrested, and Ed Harris went with him, and just like the close up of Ed Harris's face as the Bagman just gets the beat out of him was really just heartbreaking for me. And then like when they got out of that, when the sheriff finally showed up and Ed Harris is threatening the cop, and I was like, the sheriff's just not going to do anything about that. You can't just threaten the cop. But
I mean, at the very least, pull their permit. Like,
I have to say though, it's radical at the time because it's now become so standard for distrustfulness of the police and whatnot. And like cops at the time in these movies were either the hero of the movie or they're used as like they're a keystone cop of some sort where they're just like a joke.
Right. Yeah.
Like it was. You're not at the time. I'm sure there were movies that were doing this, but I'm just going off of my knowledge or memory. There wasn't a lot of movies that were showing like the corrupted side of the police force.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't speak to how common it is, but yeah. No, it was an interesting element that made me uncomfortable multiple times with how enthusiastic Ed Harris was about it.
Yeah. And then
like it didn't feel like the cop had any power, which I think is an important part of that dynamic. An important part of the challenge of that dynamic.
Yeah. And then like I was just like things that I thought were interesting too was I appreciated that the film was not like a perfect. It was not perfect for any of them. So you had King Billy, which is such a dumb name, King Billy. I know it's King William, but like King Billy. You had her whole. You had his whole issue with he doesn't want Morgan to cheapen this act, and then he's got his girlfriend, the Queen, when she's moving away from him in terms of because she was just so worried about him because he's being reckless.
Yep.
And like it's funny enough, he tries so hard to keep this group together. The harder he tries, the more he pushes them away. But as soon as he lets go, that's when they come together.
Right. Well, I think that supports something that's shown up in other ways, and that the way that Ed Harris Billy was part of what was causing that schism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy being the king.
Yeah, and like there's I don't remember exactly what he talks about during the scene, but there is a scene around a campfire when they're like catching up with the rest of the group, when they're hanging out with when it's Brother Blue and King Billy and their manager, and they're just sitting around the campfire, and Billy starts giving lets you into his ideals and why he's so adamant about keeping this group together and what he stands for. And you get the idea that he's so hurt when Morgan starts taking these offers from these Hollywood types.
Yeah.
Who
the lawyer from Jurassic Park.
Yeah. That he wants to take these Hollywood types who want to make money off of this group. And what they're doing, probably wants to make some sort of like reality TV show about them, and makes the weirdest, worst looking armor ever.
It looks like styrofoam.
It did.
Like spray painted pool noodles.
But then like you had that great scene of Tom Savini like half naked on the Knightriders thing, and I was like, I want a big poster of this, and I want Tom Savini to sign it. I want that up in my office.
Did you notice the poster in the one knight's new girlfriend's bedroom of Travolta that she blows a little kiss to?
No.
So it was like the first time he goes to her house, and she has the drunk, abusive father.
Oh yeah.
By
the way, that actress was really good too. By the way.
Yeah. So they're in her bedroom and leaving for the morning, and she's getting ready, and there's a couple of posters, and I couldn't see all of them, but the one directly behind her just said Travolta on the bottom, and it was him. and right when she leaves, she's like to the poster as she heads.
And like her character was interesting too, because she wanted to get like indoctrinated into this group, and she wanted to be part of it. But one, she was underage. And I think when they realized that, they were like, okay, you can't be part of this anymore. And then like I think deep down they also realized too that she wants to be part of this group because she wants to get away, not because she actually has any passion for this. And while they are a group of runaways, all of them to some extent, it's because they found something in this group that they can they can live for. Like so like for example, Pippin, the homosexual character, he needed a place that he could be, that he wasn't judged. You had Tom Savini, who just didn't want to work a real job. What's better? You can ride around a motorcycle.
And he loved the motorcycles.
He loved the motorcycles. Same thing with his girlfriend, who just, she's a gearhead girl. That wasn't really a thing in the 80s, and she just loves fixing up the motorcycles. And you have the other one, who is one of the female knights. And it's like they all have their place here.
Rocky.
Yeah. She was super cool.
She was awesome.
And I love, too, that, like, she probably could have very easily been probably the best knight in that group, but she seemed like she really understood King Billy's, like, order. Like, no one but Morgan was trying to dethrone Billy.
Yeah.
Any of them probably could have. She specifically probably could have beaten him.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to.
Basics.
Yeah.
Remember the basics.
Yeah. Morgan's really the only one, because he had this feeling in him that, like, I have to be the best. That's the only way I can prove that I'm the best.
Yeah. And then there was that weird scene where Rocky chases down the motorcycle skinhead.
Yeah. That seems like such a bad idea by King Billy, to let these like locals ride around on the motorcycles and use their gear. Like, no good can come from this.
Right. Like, I can see from a marketing perspective getting people excited and sharing in their joy, but like it never works out right. And the second time they're like, they came with their own armor and weapons. Like,
that was so funny to me. I also thought it was great too, like when Billy started unraveling, like when his team started giving up, and like the sound guy eventually just said and just playing some like some country rock music, and the entire team, all the people, the more they were getting into it, the more he was getting pissed off, because they're getting into it for the wrong reason. They're just looking for violence and craziness. They don't respect it.
Well, and I think that's what the Hollywood, like, he created something for one reason.
Mm-hmm.
It started gaining attention and becoming popular for a very different reason.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the crux of Billy's conflict during a lot of the film is he's not interested in it becoming popular. He's interested in keeping it pure.
Yeah. Just like good cocaine, pure.
Right. No baby powder in this motorcycle jousting tournament.
I talked about near the beginning that I probably could have easily watched a 14-hour version of this movie. Maybe not all in one sitting. I would have had to break that up in half-hour increments because I did have to break the movie up as it was. And I wanted to see more of the Hollywood production style of this. I would have liked to, because they quit before they even did anything.
Sure.
For it. I would have liked to see them planning it more and how they're gonna market this and make Savini this big name, and maybe even seen more of like I also love too that they touched on it. I would have liked to see just a little bit more. Morgan, so Tom Savini's character, he realized that he couldn't control this group. You know, the rowdier everyone was getting.
When he showed up in that hotel room and they saw them all fighting, he was like, "Nope."
Yeah, he couldn't handle it.
Billy, I need help.
Yeah, and like then he was outside hanging out, and that's when I think it was Alan or someone one of the other knights showed up, and it's like, you know, there's a place for you.
Yeah, that he could still be king, but he needed the support of the rest of the troop to keep the purity. That it's not that he didn't believe in himself. I think in that moment, it's that he realized that the purity of that code and that system that Billy created is what held it together.
Do you have the slightest idea what gas is selling for, or 2x4s, or hamburger, or anything else?
You think it's breaking up?
Money, Billy. It's all to do with money. Money makes the world go around, even your world.
You know, it's just getting too tough. It's tough to live by the code. I mean, it's real hard to live for something that you believe in. People try it and then they get tired of it. Like they get tired of their diets, or exercise, or their marriage, or their kids, or their job, or themselves, or they get tired of their God. You can keep the money you make off this sick world, lawyer. I don't want any part of it. Anybody who wants to live more for themselves, it doesn't belong with us. Let them go out and buy some pimpy psychiatrist paperback says it's okay. Don't ask me to say it's okay. It's not okay.
You know, I think that was my Thrill House moment, was actually seeing everybody start to disband, because it really illustrated that, like, oh, damn, now I have to go back to the real world. That this was a fantasy for them, and that they acknowledged that, and they felt lucky to be a part of it. So it's not that the movie took that so seriously. The characters took it seriously, and that was an important distinction for me.
Yeah, like because like you know, you their first night after their first night that we see in the movie, like after they finish their joust, like you know, like they go and cook up some food, they pull out their guitars, they get drunk, they just have a good time. They're celebrating. It's their after party, and it's like you get an idea. Like, this is their days. Like they get up early, they work hard, they support this show. They try to put on the best show they can. You know, they're cooking food, they're making baskets, beads, all this other shit. You know, they're putting their body on the line, and then afterwards it's like, you know, they get drunk and, you know, wake up under the sky. Like, it seems like a very appealing life. And then, like you said, once they have to go back to the real world and start figuring all this out and realize that they're not under contracts and have a lot more responsibility, and they're going to be making money, but they didn't really need money before. They needed just enough to keep the ball rolling. Yeah. And I feel like
to get to the next town.
I honestly would have loved to have seen a sequel where Morgan taking over Billy's mantle.
Oh, sure.
Like maybe like a more like a not necessarily contemporary, but maybe one a couple years, a little more down the road, and how everything is running. Because like for me, I was hooked pretty early But what really solidified this movie as being pretty close to a masterpiece for me, and I'll be so bold as to say that, was the ending of the film. Was Billy's, I don't remember what word you used to describe.
Rumspringa.
Yeah. His journey to find himself, and
oh my God, and what spoiler alert, when he gets
spoiler.
hit by that semi truck, it was so abrupt.
Yeah.
Like, there was zero. I mean, you know, you could have seen, but like the way that it was shot, there was no anticipation.
It was so effective.
It was just bam.
And it's like, you could tell have you ever seen the TV show Sons of Anarchy?
No, I have not.
Well, I am confident that the creator of that show has seen Knightriders.
Yeah.
Big spoiler if you haven't seen Sons of Anarchy, now, because I'm going to spoil how the show ends right now. The show ends in the same fashion, where the lead character puts his arms up and everything, and like he's riding on the highway. But they really draw it out where like they try to make it like this Christ imagery and everything, and then you see the trucks coming and it's bad CGI and everything. I love the way Romero did it. It's like everything can be over in just a snap.
Yeah.
You know, because it was Billy not really paying attention and being tired
it made it clear to me that he wasn't sacrificing himself.
No.
That he wasn't giving up.
No.
That he was trying to find redemption. He was trying to find clarity, and something just ended his story. He wasn't throwing himself on the pyre.
Yeah.
You know, there were some points that this almost had a little bit of a Fight Club vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, I was thinking about that during their last very long fight sequence to see who would be the next king.
Yeah.
It had this like, and even earlier on when he would go out and battle, even despite the fact that he was broken and bleeding. The reason why he was going out and fighting, there was that destiny element with the guy with the icon on his shield, and just like this using battling and not worrying about your well-being and your health in order to purge something, or the way that he created this whole belief system, it felt kind of Fight Clubby at times.
No, I completely agree. And then I will have to say, like, that ending sequence of Billy's funeral really just hit me, because not only was it beautifully shot in the rain, and then they had that, I love that callback to earlier on.
To the song.
Yeah, he's like, well, I want you to play that song for me sometime, and he finally gets to play it during his funeral.
I promise I'll play it for you.
I'm probably going to end the episode on that song today.
Oh,
nice.
was
such a beautiful song. I really loved that. And then you got to see Morgan, who's taking over the mantle of king. And, you know, this respect towards Billy that maybe they always respected him, but like this admiration that they didn't have before, but they realized that he's the only reason that they're all still together. Yeah.
Yep.
And that ending really got to me. I thought that was just really well done. And I had to take a moment just to sit and think about this movie after I saw it, because it's like I was not expecting a movie about jousters riding motorcycles to make me feel anything.
Yeah. Well, going back to a discussion we were having towards the beginning of this episode about it not doing well, I think that I am not well versed in how it was marketed. I'm like just looking at the cover, the what at the time I'm sure was a VHS cover. Like, if you sold it as a motorcycle jousting movie, which is what the cover does, and it's really easy to, you've never heard of Knightriders? Well, it's about motorcycle jousting. Like, it's so easy to do that, but that is not what the movie is.
No,
that's not what makes it good. That's not what
it's part
about.
of it. It adds to that kitschy nature.
It's
But that's not what's going to make me come back to it.
It's a setting.
Yeah,
I think the motorcycle jousting is nothing more than a setting. It's not. It doesn't eat into the themes and the storyline. What makes it so good? All it is the set.
Yeah.
Which is great. That I love that. It is a really interesting setting for these unrelated, serious, important conversations and topics and interactions to happen.
Now,
I love that.
My question for you is, do you think there might have been a small bit of mental illness with Billy?
Yes.
Because it's, like he honestly believes this stuff. So it's not even just like him having these images of the bird. I don't remember how he described it. Is it like the raven or whatever that he's seen throughout the film?
Well,
and then you have that great line,
Merlin.
I'm trying to fight the dragon.
I don't think he thought it was real. I don't think he was delusional.
Okay.
But mental illness, yes. I think he... I mean, even if you look, based on our modern definition, because the definition of mental illness has changed a lot from the point this movie came out to today. Depression, manic, perhaps some bipolar. Yes, I do believe he was mentally ill to a certain degree.
And I feel like it was just getting worse by the end of it. Like, he thought it was perfectly okay to walk into a school in a suit of armor and just hand a kid a broadsword.
Right. Well, and what he did to the police officer.
Yeah.
Like, that makes that make a little more sense. And
then
his girlfriend's commentary when she's talking about how, like, about 2 years ago, you really started spinning out. Like, I think that supports that too, that at some point, like, that maybe he had these beliefs, but about 2 years ago is when it started getting problematic, and that's when Billy the person started showing those initial signs.
Yeah, and like you get the feeling that the only time he's truly happy is when he's sitting on that throne watching this world that he created live and breathe.
Yeah.
And then he's even very much like Morgan, where he feels he's got something to prove, where Billy is not maybe the jouster or fighter that he once was. So much so that he told Morgan that he could use that mace just so he could show that he could beat him, even if he's using a legitimate weapon.
Yeah.
But then, like, near the end, Grant, I know a lot of this is coming from blood loss, but like he starts hallucinating the fact that he's riding a horse, and you get the feeling that, like, this is just the world he wants to have happen.
Yeah.
That maybe he didn't actually believe that Raven was there, but this is how he wants to see the world.
Yeah.
So...
Yep.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
I liked when he sat down with the guitar player talking about that song. How Billy handled, or rather how the film handled Billy's guilt about how he interacts with the people in his troupe. The way he was like, boy, I really don't pay attention to you guys. And he's like, it's okay, you don't need to do that. But he felt, you could tell that he began to self-reflect.
Yeah.
I think that's what it showed. And they didn't set it up with a bunch of like, boy, Billy's not paying attention. They didn't turn it into this major plot point.
Yeah, it was something that he wanted to do.
It was just Billy for the first time going, what am I maybe doing wrong? What could I do better? How can I change in order to hold to hold this thing that I created together?
And then, like, I also appreciate, too, that Billy's not the only character that gets some sort of arc. Like, Morgan has his arc. Alan, who is probably Billy's biggest supporter other than the Queen, he's got his arc. His girlfriend that he has throughout the film, like, he realizes that she's using him, not in a malicious way, but she's using him as an escape from her world that he doesn't really desire her and he wants the queen. Like he's trying to keep Billy's world going the way that Billy wants to see it happen. So like all these characters have their moments, and like it feels fleshed out, it feels real, and that's why I like it. And movies like this really aren't made anymore. This introspective movie where it's 2.5 hours where for some people would say not a lot is happening, but a lot is.
I'm going to make kind of a strange comparison here, perhaps. Empire Records.
Yeah, I love Empire Records.
Like an ensemble cast where you have that setting, that interesting setting, but what it's really about is how this group of people that are all there together for similar reasons, outcasts, how they interact with each other, and how they each interact with the world around them.
Yeah, like while this was many days, I refer to movies like this like a day in the life type movie.
Right? Yeah.
Where
perhaps technically a week or two in the life, but it has that same like this is a small slice of
life. That actually is a good way to describe it. I'm looking at my notes to see if there's anything else I want to talk about. We've talked about a lot of the big themes. Yeah. Would you say, do you have like a favorite scene in the movie?
A favorite scene. No, one doesn't really say. I think it. Yeah, one doesn't stand out above the others, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like it means that there's not these pillars, that it all blends and ties together.
Yeah, like there's a couple scenes that stand out for me. A lot of them really are centered around a little more around Billy and his. When we are kind of allowed to see internally what he's like. So like I said, I mentioned the campfire scene earlier where he's talking about not wanting to sell out. And then they have their council meeting later on where you kind of get that's when you really start seeing that maybe this man is insane.
Right. You don't do that.
But I guess like if I find anything, like I'd say, and like, this scene only really works having seen the previous like 2 hours of the movie, is this final quest at the end, I think is one of the most satisfying parts of the film. For me, it's like, in terms of, it's just a beautiful way for the film to end. It's sad, but it's also slightly uplifting because you see that this group's not going to crumble with him being gone. Like, for me, like if this movie would have had a less impactful ending, I don't know if the movie would have worked as well for me.
Yeah. I do recall the funniest moment for me, which doesn't exactly answer your question, but I'll
take it. I'll take it.
When they're getting raided, and Friar Tuck has pulled his vehicle off into the woods, and he sees somebody kind of getting dressed, and I have to hide my still. And it's like, I've told you before, wine isn't illegal. Yeah, but it's more exciting to pretend that it is. Like, fully aware, but he's like, I know, but this is fun.
Yeah. Friar Tuck was such a funny character, too, because, like, they're all taking themselves very seriously, but, like, I love that, like, he's just so jovial, happy to wear his robes, and, like, he's got game. He's able to sleep with that reporter.
Yeah.
Wearing a dress.
Are you a real, I forget the word, monk or something? He goes, oh, yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not.
I thought Tom Savini had a lot of great lines in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't remember when it came up, but it was like he's like everyone's calling him a bastard and everything, and he's like, "See, I have to love myself because everyone else thinks I'm a bastard."
I liked that too. I think it would have been so easy to create him as just the that's tearing this thing apart, but he's so much more dimensional than that.
Yeah, because they also get the feeling that he's not just, because like that's one thing that always annoys me in a lot of movies, whereas you'll have that character who's tearing everything apart that no one likes, but he's part of the group anyways. You get the feeling that people legitimately like Morgan.
Even Billy.
Even his flaws, like they talk about how he's cheated on his girlfriend multiple times, but like he's part of this group. They like him. They don't necessarily feel like he's a problem.
Right.
Like they might be annoyed by him and actually think that he's but it's like
think that he makes bad choices.
He's part of this family, and I like that they didn't make him a one-note joke. Yeah. And Tom Savini's performance of it helps sell that.
Yes,
because
it's very playful.
You could have very easily made him out to be something worse. And even when he is turning against the group to go with these LA types, because of the way he plays it, you never be like, "Fuck you, Morgan." It's like, especially
when he comes back, it's not like a redemption story for him. It's not, I've seen the error of my ways and now I'll never be an asshole again. He's still the same person. Mm-hmm. He just shifts his understanding of what the group is, and I like that also. Yeah.
Because like they play it very much like Morgan was not necessarily like he wasn't ready to go with these LA types as soon as they came to approach them. Like he entertained the idea and he listened to them, but you got a feeling that he was loyal to Billy. He didn't go with them until Billy started losing it, and he's like, okay, this is not worth it. Maybe I should go hear these people out. I feel like he was going to use them for a little bit and make himself feel good, but ultimately stay with the group. But if Billy wouldn't have kind of lost it, I feel like he would have.
Oh, and I think. From his character's perspective, he was holding this thing together, this thing that they created together.
Yeah.
That was his way of holding on to it because he saw it crumbling.
Yeah.
He saw Billy crumbling. He's like, if we don't take this guy's offer, then this is going away.
Yeah.
So by taking this offer, we turn it into something better, bigger, more people are into it, and we turn this into something.
Yeah, I agree.
It wasn't just, I want to be famous, I want money. Those were in there, but that wasn't, like, I never got the feeling that was the main reason why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah, like, if anything, like, they don't show it enough, but I got the feeling that Morgan, he got involved with it because of the motorcycles, but he took it seriously. Like, there's that line at the beginning where they're like, Morgan, don't forget, you're one of the few ones actually wearing armor. And he goes, why is that my problem? It's like, so Morgan took the time to get real armor made while everyone else is wearing plastic or foam or whatever. And he, a person who is portrayed as a person who's not taking this as seriously as everyone else, has legitimate armor made because he clearly
is taking it more seriously than he lets on.
Yes. And it's like these characters, and I feel like there's so much to chew on in this film. It's the reason why I feel like I see myself going back to this film.
Yeah.
Like, I actually want to pick up the Blu-ray for it.
Something else that I appreciated was I was anticipating the agent character to be trying to use them.
Yeah.
I was anticipating that he was going to just like that Tom Savini's character was going to sign up and then feel screwed over by whatever happened.
Yeah. Well,
the swarmy Hollywood guy. And that's not how it played out. And that was interesting to me too. Like when he decided to go back, the agent was genuinely like, he wasn't trying to screw him over with contracts and take advantage of him. He thought that this was a good thing, that he could do his legitimate job as an agent and it would be good for everyone.
Yeah.
And when he lost that, he was upset.
Yeah.
Like it.
And he sunk all this money into their new armor and their bikes, and
like that guy kind of got screwed over by the whole thing. And again,
he wasn't trying to do anything other than present this on a bigger stage. He wanted Knightriders to be a thing.
Yeah, and I see so many times in this film how Romero could have taken the easy, cliched, low-hanging fruit option, and he didn't. He made each of those things more interesting, more dynamic, more dimensional.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like he took the intentional thought process of like, what would someone else? What's the obvious thing to do here, and it did something different. Even when he played into, say, a particular trope or whatnot, he did so much else that was unique and different that others wouldn't have done. Like, I'd almost be afraid, like, if someone were to remake this film, I feel like they would take the wrong aspects of it.
Right.
And exemplify the Knightriders and not exemplify the Knightriders, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you go back to Night of the Living Dead and how people inspired by that go on to make zombie movies that are about zombies.
Mm-hmm.
When Night of the Living Dead wasn't about zombies.
It was about people.
Yeah. And this shows so something that now I've seen enough Romero to say that he is good at taking interesting things as setting while he explores deeply and complexly people and relationships and reality, what really matters.
Exactly.
there.
You get the feeling that he doesn't come up with the idea first and then figure out the themes. He knows the themes and tries to build an idea around it.
Yeah.
Like when he did Dawn of the Dead, he wanted to comment on commercialization, and how mall culture had really become a thing. And he's like, well, what's a story that I can do this in? And he built that film around those themes. And you get the feeling that that's what he does. He figures out the themes first. He figures that out and goes from there. So
nice. Well, how are we? Oh yeah. No, that's the end of my notes.
Yeah, I wasn't really going through mine, but as I've gone back through, as I've been looking at them as we've been talking, we hit everything. That was a very concise conversation.
It was Romero made it easy for us, I think, to have an interesting conversation. Not every film. Sometimes we watch something and we kind of talk. Oh, this part made me laugh, or this part I didn't. But
it's not always easy to pull as much out of some of the films that we're watching. But this one, like you said, Romero made it easy. He gave us everything we need to talk about, and if we were paying attention, we could find it. And I can see there's probably gonna be a lot of people who might watch this movie on our recommendation and probably not see all this stuff without helping them out.
I hope so. The best thing that I can say about it is don't not watch it because it's a motorcycle jousting movie.
Yeah.
Give it a chance as a film.
And don't let the runtime scare you off, because honestly, it didn't
feel long.
It didn't feel long.
Nope.
Like it moved by at a good pace. Like if I from a contemporary lens, maybe I would have tweaked down some of those motorcycle scenes and everything.
And
yes, yeah. But that doesn't bother me as much.
I think they were fun. It was a little gratuitous, but I don't think it took away from it. I think it felt like in those long motorcycle sequences, I felt them having fun.
Yeah. I completely agree. So, before we wrap up for the day, you wanted to talk about what we've been watching, what we've been seeing?
I'm trying to think. I don't think we talked about it last time. I saw Us.
No, we did not talk about that because it's been a while since we've had an episode. Also, I need to read off our iTunes reviews while we're...
nice. We got some?
We got 2.
Oh, hey, that's awesome.
We got 2.
I saw Us.
I loved that movie.
Highly recommend it. It was beautiful. Jordan Peele is having the best couple of years ever. I saw the first episode of The Twilight Zone.
I haven't seen that yet, but he's also been producing a lot too. Like me, we'll let you get back to Us, but we didn't realize that he was a producer on Black Klansman, and we just watched that as well.
I haven't seen it yet, but I knew that he had produced it. I think he brought that project to Spike, right?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't want to quote that as being truth because I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I heard through the grapevine.
So you liked Us.
I loved it, yeah.
And I've been reading comments online. People are like, "Well, I saw that twist coming." It's like, just because you saw it coming, does that really make it less effective?
That is only relevant if the film is only value is in the twist.
Yeah, it's like when people say that about M. Night Shyamalan's films. It's like, oh, the film's not good after you know the twist. Is it though? Because I like to go back and see how that was interwoven in. Like that's why I think The Village is probably his best film.
I really enjoyed The Village.
I think The Village is his best film. People on me for that, but I think it's his best film. But no, I really liked Us, funny enough, I've known people in my life who are complaining that they hated the scene in Us, where if you've not seen the movie, please stop listening because we might spoil something.
Oh, we're gonna spoil it.
There's a scene in the movie where it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't remember any names, but like the doppelganger is sitting there telling them her plan, or essentially what happened, and.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, that scene. This movie would have been so much better without that scene." They told us everything. It's like they did not tell us everything because I still left with the questions on that movie. Yeah. And if that for you is telling you everything, like if you really think the movie would have been better without that scene, I completely disagree. I think that scene was 100% needed.
I'm with you.
And Jordan Peele honestly reminds me his choices remind me a lot of Romero. Okay. Where it seems to me he comes up with themes first and bases the story around it.
Yeah. He said that he was always fascinated and frightened by the idea of the doppelganger, of people having a doppelganger and what that would look like. And then and that's what he built the story on.
I also thought the comedy was really well timed. Like I don't feel like the comedy ever downplayed the scares. Once again, I've known people in my life who are like, "Oh, the comedy ruined the film." It did not.
No.
You think about it this way: you can the period of this film goes for so long. It goes for a day and a half, or probably a full day. Because night to night, whatever. And you can only be scared for so long. Eventually, you like, especially because after they started killing these things, they start becoming comfortable with it. And eventually you can't be scared anymore, and you are going to make a joke about, Hands Across America or something like.
Right. Take a roller coaster, right? You need to go up in order to go down again.
Yeah.
I'm not talking mechanically. I'm saying that a drop is only effective when you have the rise. Like the scariest moment of the roller coaster isn't when you're falling, it's just before you fall.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't have that levity, if you don't have the feeling of relief, then you can't set up another scare.
No, exactly. And like I loved that all the characters felt they felt real. They felt well-rounded. Yeah. I thought the movie was fantastic. I'd have to rewatch both of them to see which one I liked better, with this or Get Out. But honestly, Jordan Peele has won me over enough that I didn't see a single trailer for Us. I just went in knowing he made it. I'm going to see it.
Yep.
And I think that's the best way to see it. Go in knowing nothing.
All right.
And like I said, there was enough good scares in the film that I don't think the comedy hurt it. It made it more fun. Like, this is a fun movie too. Like, it's scary, but it's fun.
I wouldn't even attempt to rank the films against each other. Yeah. I think they're both great. I think they both have their own value, and choosing one over the other, I wouldn't want to do that. I think they're both great.
Yeah, and I love too that he's made a career for himself after Key and Peele, because I loved Key and Peele.
Yeah.
But I love that he's been able to do something with this.
Yep.
And I've listened to him on interviews before Get Out came out, and he talked about how big of a horror fan he is, that he's like, I've got a horror. It was before he made Get Out, and he's like, I've got a horror film that I wrote that I'm pretty excited about. We'll see what happens with it. And then he won an Oscar for it.
Look what happened.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad you got to see Us. I actually saw a movie that I want you to see.
Okay.
I think it's still on Hulu. I described this movie as if you would have taken your budget for Normal and tried to remake Labyrinth, because it reminded me of your creativity and humor.
Wow.
Remaking Labyrinth.
Okay.
It's called Dave Made a Maze. And it's about this guy who is a struggling artist who can't figure out what he wants to do, who starts making a maze in his living room. that has got, like, it's got the great TARDIS joke where it's like, it's bigger on the inside, where, like, he goes inside of it and everything and it becomes, like, this huge labyrinth, and he gets lost in the maze that like, there's a great joke at the beginning, because, like, his girlfriend comes home and just sees, like, a relatively big box fort, and she's talking to him through it. She's like, why can't you come out? Oh, I got lost. You made a maze in our living room. And you're lost. And it's like, and then when they finally get into the maze, the entire thing is made out of cardboard. All the mechanisms are made out of cardboard, and it starts getting crazy.
No, I already have the script half written.
Yeah.
No, I 100%. I've been working with another filmmaker for a few years now on, like, I have started making this movie.
Oh no, I've ruined this for you.
So I guess I'll trash that one.
Well, see it first and see if you can make yours different. Like, I don't know, I saw this movie. It's like, Nick would love this movie.
That's so funny. You are in my brain, sir.
Well, it's on Hulu if you want to watch it.
Oh, I absolutely do. Yeah.
Like, because he's that, and it's like, okay, he did it differently than us. Let's see if we can make ours different. But I saw this movie and I was like, Nick has to see this movie. Another way I described it one time too is like, if one of the Blanket Fort episodes of Community would have been a full movie.
Nice.
So I saw that. Did you see anything else?
Started back. We finished catching up on the Netflix available episodes of Walking Dead.
Okay.
And now we're taking Doctor Who on again.
Where are you starting?
From the reboot.
So Eccleston onward?
So Eccleston onward.
Where is that available?
Hulu.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry. Amazon Prime.
Okay, because I was watching it at one point, I think it was before we were doing the podcast. For whatever reason, I decided to go back and start watching the Eccleston Doctor Who, and I was switching between that and Buffy the Vampire Slayer for whatever reason. It was before we did our episode on it, too. And I never got around to finish it. Honestly, I have no problems with keeping attention span for the span of a movie, but for some reason, 45-minute to an hour-long episodes, I struggle with sometimes.
It might be the way that the differences in storytelling.
It could be.
For that format.
It could be. Like with TV shows, I think I've talked about it here on the show. I like a well-made TV show. I'm not much of a binger, and I don't get as excited for it. And there's very few TV shows I ever want to revisit. And what helps keep me interested in TV shows is keeping up with multiple ones at one time.
So you can cleanse your palate.
Yeah, so like I just watched an episode of The Brady Bunch last night that I haven't seen. It was an episode where Greg had to make a movie for class, and I was like, "There's a filmmaking episode of The Brady Bunch, and I didn't know about this." It was great for me. And then I started watching a new show on Hulu called Raimi that I really liked.
I've seen the still for it in there.
What makes it interesting now to say, because it's about a Muslim guy living in New York and dealing with that. And most shows, I feel like, or most movies or shows that are about a Muslim character, I feel like usually do it where I'm Muslim, but I'm not a practicing Muslim. You know, I don't really believe in a lot of that stuff. Yeah. This is one of the few shows that I've seen, and then maybe there's other ones where he believes in the Muslim religion, and that's his struggle. Is keeping up with that in a millennial world where he does believe in God, but he doesn't know if he's necessarily a good practicing Muslim, and kind of dealing with that. So it's a different perspective that I really like. I've been throwing every so often. I throw on episodes of Star Trek or The Twilight Zone just to kind of the palate cleanser. But really, the big movies I've seen that I think. Was Dave Made a Maze. I thought was great. Me and Amanda watched Black Klansman, and that was fantastic. And then I finally saw Sorry to Bother You.
Oh, yes!
Yes! That was the most insane movie I could think of. And it was very weird. We did a double feature of Sorry to Bother You and Dave Made a Maze. I'm like, this is the weirdest night of our life.
Is it the Nick Richards inspired double feature?
Kind of, yeah.
Like the reveal, like the tone shift that happens in Sorry to Bother You, which I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Reminded me of the moment in Normal when it goes from this like weird stranger road trip film to like sci-fi portal travel movie.
Yeah, it's like, first spoiler warning again. As soon as I saw that first horse person, I'm like, what?
What just happened?
And Amanda's like, is that a werewolf? She's like, that's a better looking werewolf than most werewolf movies have. Like, no, but it's a horse person.
What did they call him?
Equestrian or I can't remember.
Equestrian, I think, yeah.
And like the guy who like
so
runs
strange.
this company, it just like I just love how unassuming he's like, yeah, they're horses. They're there. They make our life better.
The total lack of understanding why it would be a problem at all.
I know. And then like I really loved the lead actor. I thought he's really good in the TV show Atlanta that I watch.
I want to watch Atlanta. I didn't realize he was in it.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. There's an episode in season 2 there's a couple episodes in season 2 that's really him heavy, but there's a great scene in season 2 where that actor has to explain to another character who has never heard of Florida Man what Florida Man is.
Okay.
And it cuts in with like recreations of Florida Man, and it's just one of my favorite things that I've ever seen on a TV show. My only complaints really about the film is I feel like Keith Stanfield, who plays Cassius Green,
okay,
he speaks with such like I don't feel like he enunciates super easily. So like his dubbing of the white voice always off, and it always bugged me just a tiny bit. Because, like, I imagine I know how a dubbing stage works. You're watching it and you're trying to follow along with their lips. And if you can't really see their lips moving very much, it's hard to dub it. That was my only complaint. Like, it took me out of it a couple times. But, like, where that movie began and where it ended. And one thing I loved about it is I'm a huge fan of Savage Steve Holland, who directed Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer.
I have not seen either of those.
Well, we need to change that at some point because Better Off Dead is it's probably my favorite 80s comedy of all time.
Okay.
But he creates these worlds that are so over the top where anything can happen, like almost a cartoon world, but no one ever comments on it. Like it's never questioned.
Yeah.
Like it's reality, and it just becomes more and more a crazy form of reality. And this is the only film since one of his that I've seen that really gets that tone correctly.
Yeah, nice.
So I loved this. I loved this. And I loved the idea of the TV show. I got the kicked out of me. I thought that was great. And then like it's like, well, now can you play my clip? Oh, and first we gotta dunk you in the thing of poo.
Yeah. Play it.
And then the only other thing I would say that I've watched was me and Amanda rewatched the original Pet Sematary because we saw the new one and neither of us really loved it, so it's like let's go back and watch the original one.
Get that bad taste out of your mouth.
Pretty much. Anything else you've watched?
No, I think that about covers it.
Okay. I'm trying to think of. I've actually watched a lot, but since I've watched Knightriders, but those are some of the big ones. I saw the new Avengers movie and.
Okay.
It wasn't my favorite, but
I'm holding off till at some point this year. We're hoping to get me caught up on the Marvel cinema universe.
Yeah. Which ones are you missing?
Yes.
Oh, all of them. Okay.
I saw I think I saw 2 of the Iron Man movies.
22 movies is going to be a lot for you.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, if you want my honest opinion, you don't need to see all of them.
I've heard both things. So I'm leaning towards I'm sure I don't need to see all of them. Like if I saw the other Avengers,
I feel like if you saw the main ones, if you saw the Avengers movies, you've seen probably Iron Man 1 and 2.
I saw Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. She doesn't play a huge part into it, but I did love that movie. The Captain America movies are kind of important. Like there's elements in all of them that are kind of important, but like 22 movies is a lot, man.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of movies and I don't have time for that. And honestly, like most of the Marvel movies, I have no interest in going back to.
Okay. I never.
I think you will like the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy films, though.
I did see one of the. I think I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
That's very weird.
because that's the one with Mary Poppins.
Yeah, and Kurt Russell's in that movie. That movie still makes me cry.
Yeah.
It's right now. You know that Game of Thrones are the 2 most talked about things, and
I wasn't I'm sure I would enjoy Game of Thrones. I have every intention on at some point going and watching Game of Thrones, but I have not. I don't have HBO.
I will say though, Game of Thrones is surprising for me that it took off to become the phenomenon that it has, because people that used to make fun of me for liking this type of shit are ones who are like, will not miss an episode. I'm like, that's very ironic for me. It's
the same way with Star Wars and the Marvel movies and everything else. Like, the kind of things that I liked and always got made fun of for are now universally enjoyed.
Actually, real quick, I need to read those reviews that we got.
Oh yes, woo.
And then we'll say what you're gonna say. So there's only 2 reviews. So both of them are 5-star reviews.
Oh.
So the first one is by a person called Regnen. This was a while ago. This was from October 4th, 2018. It just says, it's so much fun to listen to these guys talk about movies, and I've discovered so many cool movies from this!
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, be still my heart.
And then this next one is by a guy who's been on the show, Ron Pertee. He was on our Sizzling Summer Movies episode.
Nice.
He said, you'll feel better about yourself is the tagline. And he said, great show about great stuff that you may be too ashamed to have missed the first time around. I know there has been more than one thing that I was not willing to tell folks I hadn't seen, and knowing that there were others that others made that easier in the pop culture driven society.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that really speaks to our milieu.
Yeah. Our mantra.
Yeah.
So, I'm a man of my word. I read the reviews on the air.
Hey, and everybody listening, why don't you go review us right now so that we can then read your review next time?
Yeah. Was there anything else?
Even if you hate us.
Yeah, we'll read it. If you leave a name, we'll even tell you. We'll even say their name out loud.
Yeah. You'll be almost as famous as us, which isn't very famous.
No, but we do okay for ourselves. Was there anything else?
So we have 2.
Yes.
Our next 2 episodes lined up.
Yes. Thank you.
So they're thanks to our sponsors at Mill Creek Entertainment.
Oh yeah. So, which one would you rather do first? So, for those of you listening, Nick and I just received some review copies for John Carpenter's Ghost of Mars, which is I've never seen, and then a movie called The Eyes of Laura Mars, which I was just sold because I love Faye Dunaway and Tommy Lee Jones. That could be a great cast.
And we can, not that if we can watch them both, we could do it as a Mill Creek Mars double feature.
We could. I guess let's start. Which one we want to start with, and then we'll go from there.
I would go Laura Mars.
Eyes of Laura Mars.
Yeah.
All right. We'll start with Eyes of Laura Mars. If we're able to watch both movies, we'll do.
Maybe we'll double feature it.
Yeah, we could have a nice long episode or a short episode. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We'll see how if John Carpenter can get us thinking like George Romero did.
I don't know. Our God, what was that Romero? What was that Carpenter film we reviewed like last season? I'm drawing a blank on it. It was his Lovecraft film. Why can't I think of what it was called?
Oh, In the Mouth of Madness.
In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah,
that was a good
one.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
We'll see if Ghost of Mars is on the same plane as In the Mouth of Madness. I've got some preconceived notions that I don't think it will be.
That it is not.
But I want to be surprised.
But had I gone into Knightriders, well, I kind of did. I went into Knightriders with that opinion, and I was surprised.
Yeah. But was there anything else, Nick, before we wrap it up?
I think that's it.
And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. Watch movies. I tried to sync up. We'll get it. In editing, I'll make that work. I'll make that work. All right. Oh, and last thing, I should have done this prior, but I suck at ending episodes. Please like, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We are on everything. We are on Spotify. We are on iTunes. We're on Google Play. We're on Stitcher. And if there's a place you want us and we're not there, let us know. I'll make that happen. So like, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Write us a review. Even if you hate it, it helps us out, surprisingly. Go visit our sponsors.
I mean, if you hate us, it'll ruin us, and that's why you want to do it.
It'll ruin us. Go visit our sponsors at both Milk Creek and Vinegar Syndrome. They've been with us pretty much almost since the beginning. And of course, Instagram. You can find us on Instagram.
And we love them for it.
Exactly. And Instagram, we are at Shameless Picture Show. I am at Michael_Viers, and I think I've got yours, Nick. You are at a pick worth 1,000 words.
Yes. My Twitter one is shorter. It's just 1,000 words, I think, or something.
You had to choose the most complicated name.
Well, you can't. There's nothing left, especially with a name as like vanilla as Nick Richards.
Yeah,
like,
Michael Viers, I kind of got lucky.
Is a little. You got some play there, but I'd have to do like Nick Richards 01175.
You could have just done the Nick Richards. Richards. It wasn't available?
None of that crap is stated. My name is Nick Richards. Like, short of Matt Smith. Like, Joe Allen, or, it's all taken.
Aaron Aronson. Okay. Well, you guys have a good week. We're going to have a good week. And go watch some movies.
Yeah. Peace.